What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/ChoosingBeggars. This story's called Entitled Uncle Tries to Steal from His Dead Parents. This is long and still very hard for me to write. This was meant for pro revenge, but was removed for not having a proper revenge, I guess. But I figured you guys might want to hear this story. I'm a 25-year-old male. My grandfather passed away last July. I've only gotten the chance to meet him a handful of times, but I can say they are some of my most cherished memories. I would call him when I was younger, and he always told me how much he wanted to meet my brothers and I. We finally got the chance early last year. We just moved to New Zealand, and I saved up enough for tickets for my family to all make the jump to Australia. My older brother stayed behind for school, 27 male, but my younger brother, 19 male, and parents got a chance to come as well. It was nice seeing them, but nothing beat listening to the stories my grandfather would tell. Dad jokes to the next level, grandpa jokes. After hours of talking, he pulled me in close and put his hand on my shoulder and says, "Thank you for coming. I can die peacefully, having finally met you." I thanked him and brushed off the thought of death. He was 93, but had terminal cancer 3 times, still worked on a farm, and his rental properties. As far as I was concerned, he would live longer than Queen Elizabeth. After a week, I had to fly back home. Not even 1 month later, he had a bad fall, was bedridden, and I rushed back. This time, when I sat by him, his family all fought in the next room over his belongings. Did I mention it was even his birthday? He wasn't even dead, and the only time his kids and their kids came was to fight over who gets what. I sat with him and my grandma for hours again. Never once did any of his kids come in, aside from his oldest, his son. We will call him Dick. Dick is in his late 50s now, but has never worked a day in his life, but is still a self-proclaimed millionaire. Is he actually? No. He's asked me for money more than once. He flies only first class, drives a Range Rover, has a big-ass house, but is in debt to such a degree the states would be shocked. But he always has to have the air of rich about him. I can understand. My grandfather worked many jobs, but they all grew up very poor. Dick waltzed into the room and handed my grandfather not a slice of cake, but a piece of paper saying to sign over everything to him so he can control the properties when he dies. Now, that side of the family is all very small framed. Dick isn't even 6 feet. My other side of the family are German. I stood up, enraged. I'm 6'7" for context. I stood up, enraged, and jerked a thumb out the door. Dick took a step back, but was desperate and said, "If he could just I cut him off and snatched the paper from his hands, then tossed it in the fireplace. Yes, my grandfather had a fireplace going in Australia. My grandfather snickered like a 5-year-old watching his brother, I thought it was his son, get told off for something he did. Dick stormed out of the house. I quickly apologized for disrupting his birthday, and he dismissed me with a wave and said, "I have plans of my own anyway." Fast forward a week and my grandfather passes. I return to Australia. My dad comes as well for work. My mom and little brother settle in Australia to try helping my grandmother with the will and general living. Fast forward again to Brovid, and my grandma is alone in her house now, getting assistance from the government every 3 to 4 days with general tidying, etc. But they can't do much with Brovid. I'm sorry if I miss a few details here, but this cuts me to the core to even think about. My grandmother had a stroke the day the assistants left. She was face down on the floor, choking on the food she had eaten prior. My little brother found her 2 days later. She was still alive, but in a coma-like state, paralyzed. He called an ambulance and she was rushed to the ER, but there was nothing they could do. She was alive purely on life support. Nobody came to visit her. I was stuck because of Brovid, but her kids, their kids, friends, nobody came to say goodbye. My mom and brother messaged, called, pleaded that they come. All basically said, go to hell. My mom stayed with my grandma for 3 days straight, singing to her, telling her stories. My grandmother, being paralyzed, could only just twitch her index finger and lips. My mom was left with the impossible decision. My grandmother could be kept alive on life support for at most a month, but she could not be given any pain relief. I don't remember the reason, but somehow that would also kill her in that state. My mom called me late one night asking for advice. She is very conservative and pro-life, but she would only be alive in agony for a short time as opposed to giving her the pain relief and letting her die by letting her slip away painlessly with no life support. I asked how long that last 72 hours felt to her. She said it felt like a month went past. I said, now how long do you think it feels to her? In pain, knowing that there are no loved ones coming to say I love you, and only left to think of all the things she regrets before passing. We cried together, and my mom gave everyone one final chance to see their mom. Again, nobody came. My mom stayed by her side for the next 4 days straight, still singing and trying to make her smile. The final night, my grandma touched my mom and tried to speak without a voice. No words came out, but the nod she gave was enough for my mom to feel she did the right thing. I know everybody has their views, but please do not say anything cruel about my mother or grandparents. Nobody should have to make that decision. Say whatever you want about me. I have my beliefs, but until you're in that position, you have no idea what it's like. Fast forward to the burial. Dick is there. I was watching on a live stream as we couldn't be there. Dick got up to the podium and spat on her grave. I was livid. But here is where the first taste of revenge came. When the will was read, for once, every family member was present, including Dick. Dick was smiling, waiting for it to start. Then it began. Everything goes to the youngest daughter. Everybody was jaw-dropped, but silent. For context, the youngest of my aunts is 40, but has mental problems, and to put simply, has the mind of a child still. She can't do anything herself and needs 24/7 care. Care that my grandparents gave. Care that none of my aunts and uncles gave. My mom would help, but knew she couldn't do it all, so she was happy with the outcome. My mom was in the position to enforce the will and start liquidating everything my grandparents had to go to the youngest. My brother has spent the last few months fixing and flipping all the properties to make it go smoothly. My mom is a Karen herself, but I tell her every day how amazing she is for what she went through and still is today. See, Dick was not happy with the will at all. He went to where my mom was working on the houses and waited until my brother had left to try physically assaulting her to take my grandfather's journal. The one piece of evidence that would be Dick's ultimate demise. My mom screamed for help, and my champion of a brother came rushing back to forcefully escort Dick off the property. The reason why he was so adamant to get my grandfather's journal was because he forged his signature, trying to state in court that my grandfather promised everything to him, but a certain journal was dated perfectly and tells a much different story. Do you know how bad of a punishment that is in Australia? The court is still underway, but he's looking at a 10 long solid years. I have never felt such satisfaction from watching his face drop as the court went quiet. Until after he had forged 6 different documents, from pay he was owed to promises. The sheer drop in his smug face as my mom looked at the date, time, location, everything. It was glorious. I'll keep you updated if you want to hear the outcome. Again, please don't say anything cruel about my mom. She is a Karen and I have posts about her, but I could never have picked a better person to handle this. And if you somehow find this mom, you did good, no matter what anybody says, and I'm sure your parents would be proud. Wow, that's a very tight-knit, loving family with lots of unbreakable and loving bonds of unbreakable nature and of love of an unbreakable nature. This story's called Sister Talks Crap Behind My Back, Then Throws Fit it when I won't buy her gas and cigarettes anymore once I catch her. Whew! My sister smokes. Not great to start with. On top of this, she smokes very expensive cigarettes where we live. Each pack is almost $10. That's pricey here. Cheap packs are like $4, which I didn't really care about before when she had a job, because how she spends her paycheck, the parts not being used to take care of her kids anyway, isn't really my business. But she quit her job. My butt fell. Yeah, during the pandemic, a month or so ago, because she, and I quote, "don't want to deal with that bimbo boss of mine anymore," and was coasting on money she had saved. Well, now she's run out of money, shocker, and instead of looking for another job, she's instead going to try selling her car. But in the meantime, she's broke with no way to buy cigarettes. I don't smoke, so she can't bum anything off of me. But our mom smokes, so sis could technically bum a couple off of her, but she doesn't because my mom smokes those crappy cheap cigarettes. She wants her brand of cigarettes. She's never heard the term beggars can't be choosers, it seems, so she's been in a pissy mood for a full week because she can't afford her expensive cigarettes, won't accept any cheap ones, and none of us are coughing up $10 to buy her a pack she'll blow through in maybe a week. But today, I'd had enough of her complaining attitude and decided to do her a favor. I said if she would go through Place A drive-thru for me so I could get us all some food, her kids included, then I'd help her get some gas and a pack of cigarettes. She eagerly agreed but rejected my offer to get her any food. And Place A wasn't open yet. It was like 9:30 a.m. and they opened after 10 a.m. so she'd have to wait until they opened. Then she sorta paused and asked if I really wanted food from Place A and not Place B, which is closer. Place B is legit right next to the gas station, while Place A is maybe like 2 buildings down, so still very close. I say no, I've been craving something specific from Place A, so she relents and says okay, and that she's gonna be sitting outside drinking coffee until then. So maybe 20 minutes go by and I go out to give sis a written list of what to get, cause she has a not great memory and will forget stuff. And I get close to the side porch door, which is open, and hear her complaining about having to go through the drive-thru for me to our mom. Just how I'm so rude for asking her to drive so far, and how food from Place A is just freaking gross, and how she didn't even want to do this anyways. Well, I heard our mom tell her to be grateful nobody else was offering to buy her food, gas, and her fancy cigarettes. Well, sis scoffed and started saying something else, but I walked outside and she shut up. Mom and her had wide-eyed looks, but I reached down and plucked my card, which she was gonna use to get everything from her hand, and said, "Never mind, I don't want to burden you. I'll order through DoorDash instead." Then walked back inside. She tried to call me back and say she was just messing around, but I ignored her. And when it was made clear I wasn't buying her crap or coming back, I heard her pitching a huge baby fit and our mom laughing and telling her she did this to herself by being ungrateful. So yeah, sis threw her fits and wore herself out before going and sitting in her car for a few hours to pout. I really had no issue helping her if she did a little favor for me in return, but I'm not gonna help anyone who complains about said help behind my back. That sounds really annoying and frustrating. But honestly though, when it comes to family, you can't always expect decency. It's like there's that level of comfort. It's like, why do I care to be nice to you? You know? You're stuck with me. You know what I'm saying? Obviously you should definitely be nice to your family and help out when you can. But, you know, it's kind of like when someone from your family does a nice gesture for you, it might not be as significant if someone else were to do it. Obviously everyone's family dynamic is different, so doy. But my point is, how you are with your family and how you are with others can be very different. I'd say, like with my family, I'm a bit of a choosing beggar kinda, but it's okay. There's like this mutual understanding. It's like, hey, we all put up with it. But I will say this, she definitely needs to check herself, and it is absolutely no one else's job to feed her addiction. Choosing Beggar demands I give her food because I shared with my friend, tries to get us in trouble with management. I'm in university and my accommodation only offered small studios because of the pandemic. pandemic. Everyone is pretty friendly and helping each other out, especially if someone needs help due to self-isolation. That's how I made friends with a girl on my floor. She picked up my groceries when I was sick one day. She'll be known as Sophie, fake name. So yesterday I was making pasta with sausages and tomatoes. I had far too much for myself, so I texted Sophie to see if she wanted to come share my dinner. She came in, we were eating, laughing, overall having fun. Then someone knocked on my door. I opened and enters Choosing Beggar, another girl on my floor, who lives just across from me. She's pretty annoying. One example of this is how she demanded that a guy had a panic attack more quietly. The audacity was real. So the conversation with her went as follows. Hey, Choosing Beggar, what's up?
Hi, I noticed a nice smell coming from here and I'm in a bit of trouble because I don't have much left in the fridge. So, could I maybe steal a bit of your food?
I don't think that's possible. There's almost nothing left. I gave the end to Sophie. It was a lie, but I didn't want to give her my food.
Well, why would you give it to Sophie then? It's not fair.
Sophie is my friend, and I wanted to spend some time with her.
But you should share with me too. After all, I've been so helpful to you in the past.
She hasn't. We've talked maybe 3 times. My food, my choice, Choosing Beggar. Go away. I closed the door on her and went back to eating. Sophie and I laughed about it because it's pretty ridiculous. An hour later, someone knocks again. I was pretty pissed, thinking it was Choosing Beggar again. Choosing Beggar for the last time, I'm not gonna give you— There was a manager for the accommodation standing, Choosing Beggar behind him. Hi, we've been told there's a party not respecting Prova guidelines. Here, may I check the room? Of course, check. It's just me and Sophie. The manager asked for Sophie's room to make sure she wasn't an unregistered guest, looked at the room and bathroom, then left. The look on Choosing Beggar's face was priceless. What? Okay, well, she was a strange person, but it sounds like a cool little story there. I'm glad everyone's staying safe. I hope everyone's staying safe at least. I don't have much to say here. Sounds like good pasta. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.